We're back at the BMW. A few things have happened. Got some major bird poop. And we had a little bit of rain. Never a drought in this part of the country. I should have showed the video of it up on all fours with the wheels off, but I went to my shop yesterday to try press the bushing out of the control arm, the thrust bushing out of the thrust arm, and after struggling with my little made in USA 12-ton press, no luck. That bushing, even though it's just a plain old steel shelled bushing, would not budge, and I cranked on my press. So I went to my friend's shop around the block, and he works on a lot of racing cars, circle track crap, and somebody had a broken lifter retaining clip. So he pulled the intake off that, and he put some other parts on another racing motor, and 2 hours later I'm falling asleep in my truck. He finally gets to my bushing. He puts it in a 60-ton press, and just like a hot knife through butter. So I've got one new bushing installed, and it's actually oriented. Let me show you. There's an arrow on the bushing. It's a triangular bushing with rubber in 2 directions, specifically manufactured, and obviously it's not manufactured to last. It's manufactured for a soft ride. But there's an arrow on the bushing, and it has to point towards a little bump on the control arm, which I think is in the back right there. So it kind of sort of points in the direction of the arm. One thing I did notice is after I cleaned the threads on the bolt of the rust, well, I know what I was going to tell you yesterday. When I ran my shop, which I closed over 20 years ago, I would take off bolts just like this or this off American vehicles, and they'd be rusted. Sometimes the bolt would be half rusted away to a toothpick, and you'd be lucky not to break them. And I'd take off the similar bolt off a Japanese car that was just as rusty underneath or just as rotted underneath. Look at that bushing. It's mush. And the bolts would be just like new inside. The threads wouldn't have any rust, which meant they were manufactured to tighter tolerances, or the bolt hole or whatever the washer was that it seated against. Everything was tighter, and I used to see it all the time, so it wasn't just an anomaly. But what I did notice here is I've got the bolt all the way through the thin sheet steel on this suspension bar thing that's bolted through the sway bar, and got a space here for the controller. I'm getting bitten by a mosquito. There's so many mosquitoes. So I've got this bolt loosened so I could get the wrench in to lower the sway bar bracket, to get a wrench into the back of this. But look at this. The hole through the frame on this little bracket that's welded to this 1.25-inch tube is oversized. That's not very good. You'd think, let me turn the light on, maybe it'll be a bit clearer. You'd think that such a fancy BMW, over-engineered, everything would be built to the tightest tolerances. Look at that. How that arm moves. Quite a bit. So once it's tight, it won't move, but you'd think if they would have made the hole the exact same size, a fraction bigger than the bolt, that you'd have a better fit. I don't like that piece of thin steel there. That should have been 1 thickness thicker. That's a bit more than 1/8, or it's 1/8 probably. Think of how big it is in the back. Got a big tube with a sleeve welded into the tube so it won't crush, and on the other side of it, just got this thin steel, under-engineered. Look how much that moves, that bushing moves. Look how loose that is. This is a Lem Ford original equipment bushing. Yep, that's factory. Okay, so now I've got to put this ball joint back into the steering knuckle. And I'm going to set the camera right there. I'm going to see if I can finagle this thing together. And then I'm going to go to the other side and take the other one off. Oh boy, this is not going to be easy. Oh yeah. Let me have to turn the wheel straighter. Yep, don't go away. I gotta find a key. Stick it in the ignition. Got a big fat key. Turn the wheel to the left and take some of the stress off the steering. so I can pop that ball joint back into its little home. I'm going to turn that wheel some more. There we go. Ah, boy. This is why you have to be young and strong to do this kind of work. Young and strong. Do it while you're young. Do everything while you're young. Make your money, have your kids, buy your house, pay off the mortgage. Almost. Almost. Close. So much for me taking a nice shower and being all nice and clean. Getting all greased up. Camera a little bit. I know you're still watching. At least the phone's lying on the ground. What am I going to do to get that into there? Push it. Or pull it. Hook my foot around the jack and pull. Maybe I should have put this in first. Whoop! Almost. Oh boy. You can't hammer it in because it's going in at an angle. You just mangle the stud. Doesn't go in the other way, does it? Wait a minute. I got it upside down. Duh! Yep. I got it in upside down. That arm goes the other way. It goes over the top. Uh-oh. I better delete this video. Yep. I'm a dummy. I gotta go back to BMW school. Learn how to fix a BMW. I put it upside down. My father once told me that when I was a kid. He had a 65 Parisienne. And he had the brakes redone. I was a kid. He sold that when I was not quite 9 years old. And he said to me, the mechanic put the brakes in backwards. I'm thinking, how could you put them in backwards? But you can't. You can reverse the leading and trailering shoe. I'm going to reverse it. It goes in over the top. Duh. Oh man. So much for graduating from BMW school. What if I put that in first? I'll put the nut on it. This one didn't have a washer, but the other one did. There. That's in. Now I can put the bolt in. I cleaned the threads with my power wire brush and I greased everything up. But I'm not driving this in the winter. Mr. Spike Punk said, "You gonna drive that sucker in the winter?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna put snow tires on it, big bias ply, deep lug, Canadian Tire, Motorcraft tires. I'm gonna drive it in the winter with tire chains." Are you nuts? Drive a V12 BMW in the winter? I don't drive anything in the winter unless I have to. All I drive is my 6.2 SF Suburban. That's it. Even that I hate driving in the winter because it's rusting. Even though I've gone to great lengths to fluid film it, the rust still finds its way past it, around it, through it, over it, under it. Nothing stops rust 100%. Nothing. Nothing. The only thing that stops rust is climate-controlled storage. That's it. You cannot stop rust. I've noticed things rusting where you've got galvanized metal. The fluid film doesn't stick. Gotta put the nut on there. The fluid film does not stick to galvanized metal like brackets for the brakes on the old turbo weasel. I fluid filmed the heck out of it, and there was still some galvanized metal. That's zinc plated chromate. And it was rusting. The salt got underneath the fluid film. Phew! Luckily I put that on the right way, huh? Alrighty, I gotta order the parts to do my oil pan and my idlers, my INA idlers, and this thing needs a skid plate or a plastic shield. I don't know why that oil pan's just hanging out in the breeze, and I wonder if the oil pan gasket includes a sensor level gasket, or just silicone that, or make my own gasket with a ball peen hammer. I'm tired of the oil leak stinking up the vehicle. Alrighty, next step, go to the other side, work on that one.